Okay, NET-113, Whiteboard review, 12/6/16. Okay, and this is Tuesday, week 15, almost done. Here's how the course is finishing up. Today we reviewed networks, talked about printers, talked a little bit about systems. Thursday we're going to take the take-home part, the research part of the final. We need a draft on Thursday. We'll take the Chapter 9 final on Thursday, the Chapter 10 practice on Thursday, and we'll work on labs. And we'll go over these individually with students. Tuesday, a week from today, next week, last week, week 16, we take the Chapter 10 final, finish up the labs, do some review. And then following that, Thursday is the final, and that's in combination. This part you do at home, part here. This final is due Sunday night at midnight. And Thursday, this would be similar to the test on each chapter. Okay? Alright, and you can check the syllabus and so forth for information concerning the finals. Alright, we reviewed, okay, we talked about the OSI model, TCP/IP model, the OSI model, 7 layers, application, presentation, session, which falls into the application layer for the TCP/IP model. Transport is transport, and we talked about TCP and UDP. Some students are confused on UDP in terms of, they say that it's not reliable traffic in the sense that we don't check to see if it gets there, but networks nowadays are very reliable. Some students made reference it gives poor performance and so forth. They're not clear on that. This just doesn't check. It just sends the packets in whatever order they show up because they're going through a packet switching network. TCP is reliable, and they'll set a sequence number on the packets so that they make sure they all get there and they're in the right order. Network layer, the internet layer, and then network access, data link, and the physical layer. There are some ways of testing networks: trace route, ping, IP config, looked at configurations, netstat, NS lookup, and so forth. We just mentioned those briefly. We again talked about cellular, the frequencies within a cell, and just reviewed briefly how that worked. Oh, an important point. These things are not in the application layer. They are apps that connect in to the application layer. The application layer is filled with different protocols, like for email, and we reviewed those, Simple Mail Transfer Protocol and POP and IMAP. This, and we'll talk a little more about sending and receiving email here in a minute. But some people are confusing this. Typically, if you have an email client, you use this to send mail to a server, and then this will transfer it to servers, like goes from NIACC to Yahoo, and then the person receiving the mail pulls it off using POP or IMAP, back off to the client. Talk more about that here in a minute. The TCP is really important in UDP. We reviewed. Alright. We talked about naming services. You can name computers and match that up with the IP. Domain names are for matching up domain names with public IPs, typically, to access web servers. Okay, and some people confuse DNS, domain name services, do this matchup for us between a public IP and the domain name. They do not dish out domain names. That's ICANN and other places manage all the domain names. DNS is a service that just matches it up. All right. We talked about networks, using a service provider to connect to networks. And then we talked about going to the internet, doing something similar with a VPN. This connection between these two networks. Now, also, when you have a network and it's going to go out to the internet, internally it can have a private address. You can go through a firewall or somewhere where you do network address translation and you convert it to a public address to move through the internet. The internet is a packet switching network, which means the packets hit the network and they just get switched from one device to another. They may not all arrive in the exact same order that they were sent. I also talked about the scenario I can be at home and I can use a VPN and I can contact NIACC and actually see servers and storage and so forth here at NIACC. Okay? And then we have the IT department here we talked about. All right. Some people confused. They said VPNs are just authenticating. No, you can authenticate through a VPN. Let's say if we were going between these two locations, but that doesn't mean it's encrypted. If we want confidentiality, we encrypt. Most virtual private networks are set up to do the encryption. In fact, it's often just assumed. You can actually connect two networks together through a tunnel through the internet. It's not really a tunnel, it just looks like a tunnel. And learn more about that later on. I talked a little bit about my phone. I can be here at NIACC. I can use my Google number, then Google goes into the regular phone system to distribute that. It's not through the internet. I mean, I use the internet to get to here, and then from here they put it in the regular phone system. And the last thing, I talked about printers, laser, inkjet, plotters. Different ways of putting the information on the paper, different advantages and disadvantages to those. And the book does a nice job of going through most of that. Most printers nowadays are hooked to networks, even though you can still connect it directly to a PC. But a lot of people are going to networks. We can share the printer, multiple people in the networks. And then we talked about virtual printing, to where maybe you're going to use Google to print, so you can have your printer at home. Oh, here, we can have the printer here at home, and I could be here at NIACC, and I could literally have my printer at home print something via the Google. Chapter 10 talks about all these different possibilities for systems. And we talked a little bit about companies that make PCs. Are we making more PCs or less nowadays? More or less? Recently, it has been less. People are using other devices to communicate via the internet, like your phones. All right. So that's it. Probably the last whiteboard review. Maybe there'll be another one at the end of the week, but getting near the end. That's it.